Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a BKXC bike check. I've had this bike since April 18th, 2018, and now we're into August. I've made a bunch of little changes. There's been a bunch of little things that have happened on the bike, and I just want to talk about them all. First and foremost, I will have a prominent link in the description that has the real deal list of every single piece and component and measurement and all that stuff that I'm going to gloss over or forget to talk about. Link in the description. Get there, click on it. I keep that as updated as possible. So if you're watching this video in 6 months, there might be a ton of different components on the bike. So this link in the description is current at the moment right now. So this is a 2018 Rallon M-Team MyO edition. So the MyO edition is where you build it online, you pick the custom colors. I picked electric orange, naranja electrico, and some kind of gray. There's like 5 different grays. I forget which one I chose. It's a size large. I've got 29-inch wheels, internal cable routing, yada yada yada. Let's get down to the good stuff. Let's start it off with the Fox fork up front. It's a Fox 36 float factory 160 millimeter fit RC. Okay, enough with all the blah blah blah. You get it. Link in the description. And so basically, I went to the Fox website and dialed in my suspension default. There's a little code on the back of every Fox shock, and you can put that in on the Fox website, and it basically tells you, based on your weight, what your default compression and air pressure and low speed, high speed, all that stuff. And I've just run it default, and it has felt so good. My shock is a Fox DHX2 factory. Okay, I said I wasn't going to read off all this stuff. Basically, coil shock, because I don't want to worry about the air shock. Every air shock I've had has eventually kind of started leaking air a little bit, where I have to pump it up and I have to check on it and I have to worry about it. Forget about that. I'm not worrying about anything. I don't care. I'd rather whatever the extra weight, whatever the extra cost this is, I'll take it to have a coil and to not worry about it. It also looks fantastic on this bike, and the climbing and descending, it's been great for me. It's a more linear thing, and that's what people talk about who know about suspension. I don't know. It just feels good climbing and descending. Moving on to the drivetrain, it's X01 Eagle. I love the Eagle stuff. I love having that extra big granny gear. I use it all the time. I've ridden with a couple guys that still don't have the big Eagle cassette, and they're still stronger than me, but I like not having to walk my bike all the time. There's a 32 tooth chain ring on the front. I had a chain guide that came with this by default. I took it off and I put on the absolute black oval bash guide, and it was nothing but problems. It's probably all user error and my install, but my first install, I friggin' put it on wrong and it had it rubbing up against the frame, as you can see the damage here. Then I kind of redid it and did it better, I thought, and then eventually I blew a chain and it kind of got caught in the bash guard. So I think I totally need to get a different bash guard or get it put on properly. So right now I'm just running naked. Of course, I'm running my Shimano XT trail pedals. I've run these pedals for many years now, and I love them. I can get in and get out of them quick. You just need to make sure you buy the multi-release cleats. Don't buy the normal ones. Multi-release cleats, your feet will come out nice and easy. So my wheels, I've got DT Swiss carbon wheels, XMC 1200, Spline 30. Okay, I said I wasn't going to list off every friggin' nut and bolt. But yeah, carbon wheels front and rear. They've been great. I felt the difference. When I had my Rallon demo bike, the red bike, if you've been following my channel, they had regular aluminum wheels on there. When I rode this for the first time on carbon wheels, I felt the difference, and it felt great. I did managed to break my front carbon wheel, and I had to send it back to DT Swiss. I had to pay for shipping both ways, and it was $350 for them to get a new wheel to me. So that's kind of a bummer in today's age of several companies now. Santa Cruz, Raceface, We Are One, doing carbon wheels and doing a, hey, if you break it, we'll send you a new one, replacement plan. So I'm on the fence about keeping these wheels, because there will be more damage, there will be more expenses if that happens. Front tire has been the Magic Mary with the Addix soft compound. It's like the 2.35 Magic Mary, which is probably like a 2.5 anywhere else. And it's been really, really good. It's about done, though. I really should probably take the tire off and put on something else, because it's looking worse for wear. In the rear, I've got the Maxxis Minion DHR2 back on there. I had Schwalbe Hans Dampf in the rear for a little while, and that tire seemed to wear out so fast. But you know what? the Maxxis Minion I put on after that wore out really fast too. So tires are going to be wearing out fast with me. So either way, I'm going to be in it for spending $100 a month on tires, it seems like. Performance-wise on these tires, it's still up in the air. I mean, I ride in so many different conditions all the time. It's very tough to nail down 100% saying, yes, this is the tire, this is the best. I just happened to buy a bunch of Maxxis Minions front and rear from Worldwide Cyclery like a month ago, so that's what I've got on hand, and that's what I'm going to be using for a little while. And how about that cush core? I'm running it in the rear. It's allowed me to run air pressures down around 23, 24 psi. I'm still experimenting with that. Previously, I've been running 30 psi in the rear to keep myself from rim dings and flats. And I'm a believer. It wasn't really that hard to put on, and I am planning on putting it up in the front once I replace that front tire. And a pretty important point here is that I think I have about 600 miles on my bike so far. Strava is probably saying about 550, and I'm sure there's about 50 miles in there that I had forgot to start my Strava and record. I like having Strava to know how many miles are on my bike and how many miles are on each little piece of equipment, even though I haven't really been super diligent about that. My brakes are Shimano XTR Trails. They've been very, very solid. I really, really dig them. I've had to replace both front and rear rotors from damage in the rear and just warping in the front, and I think that just comes with time and time. I've just had to replace the brake pads as well. No big deal. Nice and easy to swap those out. One thing that's very interesting about running Shimano brakes with a SRAM Eagle shifter, you have to buy this little thing that's called like a matchmaker. It's not a matchmaker, it's called a problem solver. And it makes it so easy to mount up the SRAM Eagle shifter with the Shimano brakes. It looks good. Before I was actually running two different loops on the handlebars, and that just looks so ugly. It's nice to have one little thing. And speaking of the handlebar, I've got the Race Face Next 35 10 millimeter rise, 800 millimeter wide handlebar. It's a great handlebar. I really feel like it feels good and everything is solid with it. My only other point of reference is really that Renthal fat bar that I was running in the UK on the orange stage 6 that I was riding, and my hands would get destroyed on that bike every frigging day. And Guy, who I was riding with, said it's probably the Renthal fat bar, the aluminum bar. It was just killing me. So coming back home and having this carbon bar, it's been very nice. Race Face 35 millimeter Turbine R stem, no big deal here, it looks good. Got my classic Wolf Tooth Fat Paw grips on there. I always love them, they're getting torn to hell. Then I've got my custom stem caps on the end. I think you need better bar end plugs when you run Wolf Tooth Fat Paw grips. The ones that come with it just get knocked out so easily. These stem caps are really solid, rugged pieces of metal that screw into the end of your bar end plugs, and they expand and they just stay in there, and they take the beating very nicely. So one of the biggest changes I made from the bike that I ordered in April and received to now was buying the Fox Transfer dropper post. This is the dropper post that every bike shop says is the best and that people have the most luck with. The dropper post that came with my bike was the Race Face Turbine R, I believe, and all the guys from bike shops that I know said it's terrible and it'll blow up at some point. I can't have something that is known to be unreliable on my bike while I'm out traveling the world. I don't want to have to go to a bike shop in Timbuktu and say, hey man, can you help me with my seat post here, my dropper post? It's kind of sucks, and I kind of knew it sucked and I didn't do anything about it. So I had to do something about this and get the Fox Transfer on there. Yes, I know the new Race Face Turbine is better because it's just the Fox Transfer rebranded, but the one I had was the crappy one. So it's 150 millimeters tall or long or deep, however you want to say it. It's the Kashima coat, which matches the Fox fork up front. And when I bought this from Worldwide Cyclery, they heavily suggested that I get the Wolf Tooth remote instead of the normal Fox remote. And I've been happy with going with that suggestion. That's the one cool thing about having a good bike shop and that knows kind of what's good and what's kind of crappy, and they told me to get that, and I've been happy with the Wolf Tooth remote ever since. If you're still rocking like a button push remote, definitely look into getting a more ergonomic remote like this one. One of the other changes I made from default was putting on my WTB Silverado Pro saddle from my Bronson onto this bike. This bike came with a Sella Italia saddle that I don't even think they sell anymore, and I just really wasn't happy with it. Since I put the Silverado on my bike, I haven't thought about my butt like once. It just isn't a factor. So this is a very good saddle. I highly recommend it. The other thing that has a lot of miles on this bike is my custom frame wrap from Frame Up Bikes, my local bike shop down in Pleasant Hill, California. It is safe to say that the frame wrap has saved quite a few dings, but it hasn't saved them all. I've definitely laid this bike down quite a few times, put some pretty good damage on the bike, chips and cracks and stuff where the frame protector blocked it pretty good, and stuff where it did not stand a chance. So it's pretty interesting. I think I'm going to go back and see if they can retape certain parts. You can see there's certain parts that have dirt under them and stuff like that, but I think it has saved the day a few times. But with the amount of times I crash, nothing is going to work except for wrapping the whole thing with 2 inches of duct tape. All right, I think that's it. If you guys have any questions, of course, leave them in the comments. Like I said before, there's a link in the description that actually has all the nitty-gritty details if you're into that. Hey, thanks for watching, you guys. I'll see you on the trail.